Swiggity Swadcast, I'm coming for that podcast. It's time for another episode of You'll Never Talk Alone. Your temporary host, Alex Lovell, here with the returning Zach Osborne and Will Caves. Fellas, how are you doing?
Whoop whoop! That's for all the Juggalos out there.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a huge crossover audience.
Of course.
And they will also be as displeased as most of us are about the result this weekend. A drab, well, somewhat drab 0-0 against Everton. It's a bit of a shame that we didn't get to record after the Watford match, which was probably the happiest match we've had in 2019. And we don't really, I mean, we can if we would like to, but this feels like it has much bigger implications for the entire season rather than that anomaly as you described it, Zach, in the pre-production meeting. So Zach, I'll start with you about this. What do you, I have in my outline to ask you what went wrong, but do you think anything went wrong this weekend? And if so, what was it?
Did anything go wrong?
Yeah, well, I realized that my question was a bit leading by asking what went wrong. So I guess I'll ask you if you feel like
a hell of a lot went
yeah.
wrong. I thought you maybe meant to say what went right. No, because most everything went wrong. I mean, obviously the defense was fine. A clean sheet. But that I don't know if that's anything to really celebrate given the circumstances of the match. I mean, the biggest problem is the same thing I talked about the last time I was on the pod, which was a lack of, goal-scoring threat, a total lack of goal-scoring threat. Our forwards just looking out of touch, out of place, just not themselves. It sucks when all of your, really high quality attacking players are all out of form at the same time, or at least playing really inconsistently. Mane is puzzling because he looked, unplayable against Watford, and then he got subbed off for who? Origi?
Yeah, I think that's who came. Or it might have been Lallana at the end.
Yeah, so that's not great. So yeah, that's obviously the biggest problem, the biggest thing that went wrong. You watch us for the full 90 minutes and you don't know who could score. No one's coming close. No one's threatening goal. No one looks like they have that pep in their step. Just looks kind of everyone out there is resigned to the fact that we're pretty crap. And, by the end of the match, I remember texting about this in the group text. We were just like booting it long from our own box. And like when we're the type of team, when you see us start to do that, we are not getting a result. Like it's a done deal. Might as well turn the game off because we have at that point admitted defeat. So I was pretty disheartened.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't fun. I didn't enjoy much to any of the match. Will, I know you're usually a little more optimistic than Zach and myself, so
that's an understatement.
Help us feel better
about the match or about our situation.
Let's start with the match and broaden it out to the situation because I feel they're very intertwined. Considering this match was the culmination of a 2 months where we just pooped in our own mouths.
Oh, the match was terrible. It's like I don't really know why we've been on this run of draws lately, except for Watford. But like, I wish we were like I'd rather win every match 1-0 and score just like very few goals than say and end up the season as title winners. Than say, oh well, Allison has 20 clean sheets and this is the best defense we've ever had in our history. Like, I kind of get tired of that. It gets annoying when we can't finish, we can't seem to pass in the final third. And but it's like from game to game. Like against Watford, there's literally nothing that we couldn't do. And Watford is, I mean, at least in terms of the table, they're better than Everton. But we can't, I don't know. I strung better passes tonight in my pickup game than some of our players at the weekend. It was truly
How windy
terrible.
was it?
Well, we did lose. It was very windy, very very windy.
Oh, I love it, and I hate it because it kills me inside. But well, we will address. There were some positives. I mean, Allison made the saves when he was asked. Virgil was immense. Joel Matip staking his claim to be a future Ballon d'Or winner by
Liverpool's number 10,
padding the stats for take-ons. I mean, surely he's at the top of the table for take-ons completed. And I thought Fabinho was also good in that little triumvirate, even though I think between them they had probably 96% of our passes just because they would be passing around and no one would really move to kind of open up. And like we just mentioned, this match is the nadir. I think that is Zenith and nadir. Can't remember. Don't use those words a lot, but it's the low point ish of the past 2 months where we've seen our lead diminish, and a lot of the things that were on display this weekend are big reasons why we're now behind City in the table. So Zach, what are kind of we haven't had you on the podcast for a while. So what are the worrying, before I ask you this question, let me again reiterate that all of this is out of a place of love for the team. We talked in pre-production about the two extremes of fan base, just the blindly optimistic and the blindly pessimistic.
And we have both of those here on the podcast.
Yeah. And we just want to have a discussion about this because we have now dropped into second, and it's hard to ignore that fact that things have happened. The past 2 months have not been fun or good, and our team hasn't looked like the team that we were that got to the top of the table. So Zach, what are some of the consistent issues that you're seeing crop up, and how do you think we can fix them?
Oh, that's a toughie. At least the how do I think we can fix them part. Honestly, this is one of those situations that tests my soccer IQ, which is admittedly not all that high. And I think, it's hard to say if it's just a lot of players out of form at the same time. And so that's sort of compiling and making us look like crap overall because so many players are misfiring and several players have seemingly lost their confidence. And but then also it seems like we don't quite know what we want our identity to be as a team right now. People playing out of position, odd substitutions, relying on players that you never really would have expected us to rely upon. There doesn't seem to be a consistent game plan for how these matches are going to play out. It used to just be, as long as the midfield could hold things down, our forwards were just going to pester the opponent's back line all day long, and the quality was going to shine through, and Salah was going to do something incredible. Mane was just going to run right by somebody. Andy and Trent were going to put in perfect crosses, and things just happened. It was just easy, right? And suddenly nothing is coming easily. And it's like they know that. It's like the players they've lost a little bit of their fighting spirit. They look deflated to me in most of these matches. Obviously, we said Watford is the anomaly where they were smiling and celebrating each goal team, and they looked excited to be out there. But I think for the past month or maybe even more than that, I don't see that joy being expressed in the football. And it's hard to quantify why that's missing right now. I don't really know. Maybe one of you two with the background as actual players could, I don't know, enlighten me a little bit as to what you see from a tactical perspective in terms of what we're lacking.
Well, I said towards the beginning of the season when it looked like you guys know that I love Wilfred Zaha, and this is not a Wilfred Zaha podcast, at least not this episode. But what we lack is cover for our front three. That was the one thing that I wish we had gotten in either transfer window, and you're seeing the result of that now. I think you said that they don't look like they wanted, or they don't have the same energy. I forget how you phrased it. They look tired to me. Like Mane Salah, and to an extent Firmino, except when he's been out with his injury recently, play 90 minutes every game, regardless of the competition, pretty much. And it's just it takes its toll on you. You start picking up like strains. You're sore. You can't really have. You might not feel great. Our team is susceptible to illness. Apparently, all of them, and that's what I see the most of. It's just everybody kind of everything looks laborious. Like we can't complete passes. We're not stepping towards passes. We're waiting to receive the ball, which generates interceptions. You'll see a lot of times, Trent will make a run forward, or Andy will make a run forward, and they look up and they have one option, maybe one and a half option if Salah decides to run. Like it's frustrating to me to watch them and just be like, oh, we like this weekend. Salah really had no business being on the pitch after about 70 minutes, and they left him on the whole rest of the game. And it's just, that's what's most annoying to me. But I think I want to touch on what I think about the subs, because I think that is important. I think Klopp is being pragmatic right now in terms of what he's doing substitution wise, where the three of us and most of the fan base would say, throw on Keita, throw on Shaqiri, let's go get a goal. I think Klopp looks at the state of the game, looks at the state of our players, and says, okay, we can still win this, but let me make sure we don't lose this. And that's why we see people like Milner. That's why I don't really know what's happened with Shaqiri lately, but that's why you're seeing more of Lallana, because he can hold possession really well, especially in the final third. He's easy to rag on, but he does do that. It's just, I think that's where he's coming from. That's like his thought process, and it's. I know my first thought is you can't win the title being pragmatic, but I think he's trying to say, okay, something's up, and until we fix it, we're still in this as long as we don't lose. And I think, and I'll talk about this on my next turn, but if you look at the next few fixtures, we have a good opportunity to still be in the hunt for a long time yet.
Yeah, that was the point I was going to make as well, is that, I'm not probably going to refer to it as pragmatism. I think it's a little bit of, I don't want to say fear, but trepidation to really go for it. And you could hear it in the angry answer that he gave to one of the reporters that asked him, like, why didn't you put on some more attacking subs? And he kind of went off about how this isn't PlayStation and you can't just throw on a bunch of forwards. But that's also not really what we were asking for as fans. I mean, Zach, you brought up the point about how towards the end of the game, we were just booting it forward. I know Will and I both played Mississippi high school soccer, but like most Mississippi high school soccer teams didn't have club kids on them. That's what they would do.
We were playing Burnley ball.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think that was limited to the end of the game at all. I think that was most of the second half and a large part of the first half. And I feel like I sound like a broken record because I always go back to the midfield and balance, but that is what's happened. We know what we get with the back line. We get aggressive fullbacks, solid center backs, bar one or two times, and we get a great keeper. The front three, we know that we don't know what we're going to get, but we know how we're not going to get it or we're going to get it. It's either going to be really great or really annoying.
Uh-huh.
but the midfield is such an enigma. And you look at the numbers. I was just looking at the numbers of when our leading goal scoring midfielder is Shaqiri with 6 goals, and he hasn't seen the pitch. He didn't see the pitch against Everton. He didn't see the pitch against United, which definitely shows that Klopp is playing it safe and making sure we don't lose. And I think that's hurting us because we were booting it long because we didn't have anyone in the midfield that was doing anything yesterday except for Fabinho. Fabinho was showing to the center backs, playing it in triangles with the fullbacks and trying to get out. And then whoever got out would look up and there was nothing. There was no movement. There was no bridge between the front and the back. So we had to resort to booting it up to them and playing super direct. Well, and that's something. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. You finish.
Well, it's something that we've seen, and we keep chopping and changing our midfield 3, and I think that definitely plays a part of it because we never are able to find balance because it's always rotating because someone's always in form or out of form or someone's hurt. And we keep playing somewhat to the situation, but more to our end game, and I think that's hurting us because we're not getting what makes us great. And I actually think I really, really hope Klopp was watching the Ajax v Real Madrid match today because it shows that you can be you and do what you do against anyone and make it work if you do it well. So I kind of hope that motivates us to stop retreating into our shell and stop being something we're not. Because if we don't be who we are, then we're not going to win.
I was going to say, you were talking about movement and stuff, and I think that's the whole reason you play boom ball is to create, or Burnley ball, whatever you want to call it, is to create opportunities off the headers, off the layoffs, off the, you kind of create something out of nothing, or you give up possession. Most of the time you give up possession. But because we don't have the movement and because teams are learning that if they just sit back, we might get 4 or 5 chances, but unfortunately it takes us 7 chances to score. And so we're not, more than likely, we're going to not be able to do stuff even if we get the ball. I'm just looking, I went back, and I'm going to pull up Everton in a second, but I'm looking at Watford because we did score 5 goals. We took 19 shots with 10 on target, and we only scored 5 goals. Like it's ridiculous how, I don't know what the anti-clinical, how
inefficient,
yeah, whatever word you want to use. It is ridiculous how many opportunities we have to make in order to score a goal right now. It is truly terrible. And that was all my point was.
Yeah, and I mean, the United game and this game, because these were two of the biggest games of the new year so far. These were the 2 that fans were most worried about. And these were the 2 that were so clearly calling out for certain players on our bench, namely Shaqiri and Keita, players who will drop deep to pick up the ball and break through lines with a progressive pass or a dribble and bridge the gap between the back line and the front line. And we opted not to play them. We opted to kind of expand that gap by putting in the safer options or players who don't do that or players who haven't played in 50 years. And on one hand, it like on paper, it looks pragmatic, but it ends up ruining a lot more about the way we play. And it's hard to watch sometimes. It's like you have these players on the bench and they may have been sick. They may be coming back from injury, but at some point we got to go for it because draws aren't good enough.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to win the title playing it safe. It's just it'll never happen. City's too good, and this is when they are the best at this point in the season, and you've got to go for it. And we're not going for it. We're just not. And Shaqiri, I understand Shaqiri not starting, but Shaqiri is the very depth. You look up impact sub in the dictionary, and his picture is there. I mean, you can only see the top portion of his head.
Just his hair, really.
But, right. But his picture is there. Like, that is what he does. And he is wasting on the bench I can understand the argument that he doesn't quite fit into the starting 11 right now, but he's got to be one of the first guys you're thinking of when you're looking for someone to throw in to energize the midfield with 20, 25 minutes to go, bring something new, bridge that gap, as you said. It just baffles me that he's not being used. When, like we've said all on the pod tonight, these draws are not going to do it. We're going to lose more and more ground the longer we play it safe or pragmatic, however you want to frame it. It's just I don't know. I feel like we're pissing away the title. I'm getting back to that. I was trying to make a solid point without just being like, blah, I'm mad, but I'm sorry. That's how I feel.
Yeah, and it's a shame to have one loss all season, but that the 7 draws hurt us way more than that one loss. Because I mean, it's weird to say, but it's so much better over the course of 2 games to win one and lose one than to draw both. You get that extra point, and that builds up over time. So I think we have 7 draws. If we take that and we divide that, where we win 4 of them and lose 3 of them, we're up by 2 points right now. So it may seem safe, but in the long haul, it may not be. And Will, you made the point that we have the fullbacks running up and crossing in, and there's one person in the box. And I think that points to the fact that we talked earlier in the season about people coming in and taking the game by the scruff of the neck, and we have not had that.
We don't have anybody.
The past 2 months. And I think what goes hand in hand with that is that we have 4 goals from outside of the box all season. It shows that we're not really taking those shots because no one is going to take that risk almost. There's kind of passing the buck on the comfortable pattern of play. And we see that a lot of times when the ball is passed into someone in the middle and it just immediately goes straight back to our center backs. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're seeing the responsibility passed in the most difficult time of the season. It's about time somebody got on the ball and went at someone and shot the ball. I know Milner did not play well when he came on, but I was so happy that when he came on, he had a shot from 20 out because we had not even tried that. And they were just giving it to us. They're backing off. Teams are literally backing off into their box when we're 25, 20 yards away in prime shooting territory because they know we won't take it. And again, it sounds like we're really pissed off and negative, but we're only so negative because the season has been so positive, and we want it to end on the most positive note it possibly can.
Well, speaking of season endings, and I'll transfer us into the run-in, I guess. I saw a thread on Reddit today that I just wanted, and I knew this, but it actually had stats on this. It looked at the rest of our games versus the rest of City's games, right? So like the average league position of City's games or City's opponents going in was 11.8, so 12th. Ours are 13th. The results from the reverse fixtures for the remainder of our games, City got 21 points from those fixtures. We got 25. And excuse me, City plays 45% of theirs away from home versus 55 of ours. So we have the opportunity. On paper, we are certainly not out of it, but on form, I really think the next 2 games, you mentioned Bayern earlier. I would love to see another deep run in the Champions League. I think that would salvage. If we're not going to win the title, like the only way you can salvage that is by getting to the final again. Like maybe, and even that's not going to salvage it completely, but at least it gives.
We have to win a trophy.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right.
That's
I think if you don't win the league, you have to win the Champions League,
or else this season is a failure, and we're gonna have to own that.
But and it's so wild, because you're not wrong, but and I know Joseph has something to say kind of along these lines, but like we'd be like the only team to like get over 90 points and not win the league, or one of 3 in the past 20 years or something crazy. It's just, of course, it would happen this year. Like, of course, getting above 90 points and losing the title by 1 point is considered a failure this year when like any other year we win the league. It's terrible.
Yeah, before we elaborate on that, I will take this time to interject Joseph, who couldn't be here tonight. He has a little something to say, and he'll add that in right now.
You bet your butt I am. So, I'm a bit of a numbers nerd when it comes to sports. I'll admit that. And being a numbers nerd, I decided, you know what? I was curious about the context surrounding this insane season. There's really no other way to word it. This season has been crazy. So I crunched some numbers. First of all, here are the facts. As it stands, Liverpool obviously has 70 points with 9 matches left to play. That means that the maximum amount of points that Liverpool could earn is 97 points. The next to worst thing that we could possibly do is draw every remaining game and end with only 79 points. Obviously, losing every game is the worst case scenario, but that is its own situation. That's really not even worth considering. That would just absolutely suck in all regards. So let's just say, in theory, that Liverpool continues on the trend that we've pretty much established so far in the season, and we win 4 of those matches and draw on 5. That seems reasonable to me. That's a decent 87 points to end the season with, and that's the hypothetical situation that I'm going to abide by today. See, in the past decade, this is how every single Premier League season has ended. 2017 and 18. City won, scored a stupid 100 points. United was in second place with 81 points. That was a massive point differential of 19 points between first and second place. 16-17, Chelsea gets the title with 93 points. Tottenham behind them with 86 points, a difference of 7. 15-16, Leicester takes advantage of a weak season, wins with 81 points. Arsenal's in second place with 71 points? Really? Wow, I guess I forgot how weird that season was, besides the obvious of Leicester winning it all. 14-15, Chelsea back on top, 87 points. City in second place with 79 points, a more moderate 8-point difference. 2013 and 14, City wins with 86 points. Of course, we are in second place with that heartbreaking 84 points. Chelsea in third with 82. That's a very, very tight season. Only 2 points separating each of those 3 squads. 12-13, United gets 89 points and wins. City's in second with 78 points, back up to a double-digit point differential. 11 and 12, City and United both get 89 points. Of course, we all remember how that season went. 2010 and 11, United ends with 80 points. Chelsea and City both get 71. The point differential is back down to 9-point gap separating the teams. 09-10, Chelsea gets 86 points. United behind them by only 1 point. And finally, 10 years ago, 2008 to 2009, United wins with 90 points. We are in second place with 86 points. Chelsea finishes with 83. Another fairly close race. Also one of the higher point totals to win the league in the entire decade. Okay, so that's a lot of numbers, but really they only tell us a couple of things. First of all, the best case scenario that we mentioned earlier, where Liverpool gets 97 points, well, that's going to win the Premier League 9 out of 10 times. Most of those years, that's also a double-digit point differential. See, Liverpool's in a position to not just be a good EPL team this season, but a historically good Premier League team. But even if Liverpool doesn't do that, even if they win 4 matches and draw 5, that hypothetical that was put out there earlier and kind of seems to be following the trend of how the season is going, that's still a good enough point total to win the league 5 out of the last 10 times, including beating the 2014 and 15 Chelsea team, who also got 87 points on account of goal differential. Oh, and just for fun, if we won 4 games but still somehow lost 5 and only got 82 points, that's still good enough to win the league 2 of those seasons. And that's the frustration, isn't it? I mean, we're finally in a position to be an absolutely dominant, historically good Premier League team, and yet we're still in a fight to even stay in the title hunt because of Manchester City. Simply put, this season and the fact that the Premier League itself has both of these teams battling like they are is totally insane. And all of that is just frustrating as all shit.
Yeah, Joseph. I agree, Joseph.
So, yeah,
I don't know if I agree.
And those numbers are ridiculous. I mean, no matter how well we do, like we're probably gonna win the majority of the rest of our matches, no matter what. And any other year, you'd essentially walk the league. You have almost a record-setting points total, like you said, and this year it takes more than that. And I
See, I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off. That's what I do. I'm
He's not that
aggressive.
sorry.
I kind of disagree. If we start saying like in any other year, we're looking back at what used to be, but this is the new normal. Like this is what City's level of dominance has done. And I don't think we can think in terms of how the Premier League, I did the Premier League, how the
Premier
league
League.
has been in the past, because I really just think unless we can start to build a squad to compete with cities, that this will continue to happen year after year after year. I think they've created a formula where, we're either going to have to get lucky or we're going to have to take drastic measures to be able to compete with them on a regular basis.
But let me interject. Let me interrupt your interruption to ask you a question.
And let me say one more thing.
Right. I just had, but like you said, you're right. The game has changed. The league has changed. The Premier League has changed. But if you're moving the goalposts for the league, does that not also move the goalposts for your own disappointment in Liverpool? Like, we are not City. We're performing like out of this world in relation to historically. Like we would walk the league in any other season, but right now if we can't compete with City, if we have to build a team to compete with City, does that not shift the goalposts of your disappointment at all as well? Like, is it not a moral victory that we've come this close?
For me, no.
I'm just curious.
For me,
That's one of our players. That's not an answer.
Yeah. For me, yeah.
I didn't even mean to do that. No, because I've seen us, since my time as a fan, I've seen us collapse down the stretch and finish second twice prior to City kind of like completing their project of becoming the ultimate super team.
Hate machine?
Yeah. And so now, if this season is going to come to represent like the culmination of City's project, where even when a team as good as Liverpool cannot eclipse what they're able to do just kind of automatically because of the people they've brought into the club, if this is the culmination of that, it's gonna crush my spirit more than any of those past seasons, because this is clearly the best Liverpool team I've ever seen as a fan, right? And we still couldn't do it. And that's just going to represent for me that now it is even more beyond our reach than it was in 2010 or 2014, because more time has passed and the City has been allowed to spend more money and add more quality, and now it's just that much further away. It's going to destroy me, Will.
Well,
maybe it's not disappointment in Liverpool, and it's more like existential crisis.
Yeah.
Whatever,
Well, I'm looking at their fixtures, and just I do want to point out, since this is also low-key a Brighton fan pod, if we went out to the final match day and they went out to the final match day, they do have to play Brighton away on the final match day. So squall on the last day of the season. Let's go.
Yeah, I think additionally the most, I guess, disappointing part about how this is unfolded, and again, there's still so much to go, and I know we can talk about whether we think City will drop points here in a minute, but a lot of it, I don't want to say it's as cut and dry as this has come down to choices, but it's come down to not just having been here before and being used to winning titles and being used to winning, but the players and the manager just backing themselves. Because we see after this draw, and we saw after the United draw, every Liverpool player on social media has posted a picture of them looking intense and saying, "We'll keep fighting for these last 9 matches." But we've seen that before, and I want us to see it on the pitch. I want us to see the players go out there and fight for this title. I don't want to go down blocking. I want to go down swinging, because if this Liverpool team is the embodiment of swinging at people. We go at people. We overwhelm people. Even if we've had to temper it back a little bit with the more possession-based style, when it was working and it got us all those wins and it got us to the top of the table, it was just siege mentality. And that was the big difference this weekend, especially when you look at our match versus Everton and their match versus Bournemouth. Fairly comparable teams, really inconsistent, can put some good stuff together. It was just Bournemouth, sure, they set up slightly different, but they didn't even get close to a shot, and that wasn't all down to them. It was down to City just going and going and going and backing themselves, and we're really good players, and we're going to find a way to score this. And it didn't really look like that, mostly because when we were trying to score, it was only 3 people, sometimes 2. When they were trying to score, it was 10 people. And so it's time for someone to step up and will the rest of the team around them to step up, because this is where, like a Under Armour ad says, this is where champions are made. This is where you win the title. We've done the grindy stuff, but now it's time to do the even harder stuff, and that's get through the business end of the season, managing 2 competitions. Speaking of which, I would love for us to beat Bayern. I think us going deep in the Champions League will give us belief in the league. We'll keep our form up despite our inability to rotate effectively. But we have to be ourselves. And the more we get away from that, the less we're going to look like the team that got to the top of the table in the first place.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. I do want to point out, if you look at, I'm statsing real hard right now. I never do this, so I'm excited. We're in match week. We just finished match week 29. In 13-14, when we lost the title, some would say due to the slip. I would say due to the Palace match, but that's neither here nor there. We were in the middle, like right smack dab in the middle of our win streak. We weren't even in the title picture at this point in that season, and we were 6 weeks before the slip, right? So we are by no means out of it. And I think, and I said this last time that we were on the pod that I was here, we were at that point when I said this, we were going to drop points, and we have. I also think that City will drop points, and I think the next 9 weeks are going to make us all gray-headed, and it's going to be terrible. But at the end of it, I do hope that we are champions.
By the way, I misspoke pretty badly earlier, and I feel the need to correct myself. I was referencing past seasons when we almost won the league, and I referenced 2014 correctly, but I also referenced 2010, which is a year we finished 7th, 1 place behind Aston Villa.
We were really close that year.
So I meant 2008, 2009. Sorry about that. Don't start typing away in the comments section. I admit I'm an idiot. But
do smash that like button.
Yeah, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a video.
Yeah. Please do. Yeah. Speaking of bells, another letter that starts with B is Burnley. So we're going to talk about Burnley because we play Burnley next. And it's a time to turn things around. It's a time to hold our loved ones dear, tell them we care about them. But, Will, what are you looking to see against Burnley? Do you think we play their style like we did against Everton? Do you think we stick with the boom ball?
I hate playing Burnley so much. I really do. But, no, I actually think this may be a game that could turn the whole thing. I mean, we're at home. The fans will be antsy, but they'll be in full voice at the same time. I think that we will absolutely be able to win this one. Burnley is kind of listless at the moment. I mean, they're in 16th, but they're pretty. I mean, they're safe. Like they don't really have much to play for. I just don't see this one being much of a contest. I don't. Burnley's just kind of whatever. I will say that I think you will start to see. We have to go for it, right? Like you have to. So if Keita's fit, I think you see him. I think you start seeing Shaqiri. I do think that we will still probably see some Origi and some Lallana just because we're at that point. But it's it's time to go for it. I'm with Zach on that one. Like, let's freaking go for it.
Yeah, Zach, are you expecting a lot of chopping and changing? Because, I mean, we saw very similar lineups in the two games that the fans have probably been most disappointed about in these past 2 months. So how much do you think we change? How much do you think we buck up and stop cowering in fear?
Yeah. When is this match?
It is Sunday at 7 a.m. Another instance, and that could be another factor in the title race, is that we pretty much play after City for the rest of the season, which is really frustrating. I wish.
And then we play Bayern on Tuesday or Wednesday. Following.
We
I
play
think it's Wednesday. Let me look.
I think there's going to be a lot of
Wednesday.
changes. I think some of the most crucial guys for the Bayern match are going to get rested. I don't know. I'm usually pretty wrong when I try to get inside Klopp's mind. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we have to play at least one of Keita or Shaqiri because we know what Burnley are going to do. They're going to do what Everton kind of tried to do somewhat, that we didn't let them do because we were so bad and so invisible that we kind of forced them to play. So that was kind of fun. But I mean, they don't care about winning. They would a win for them, even if it's not a win, is ruining our season at this point. So we have to go out there and just pick them apart, and I think Naby could play a big part. I've been outspoken about my love for him. We saw him do that when we played them away, and we've got to do something. We can't just keep hitting blind crosses into the box against gargantuan people. Yes, Sadio Mane scored a header against Watford. Don't know how the hell that happened. Won't happen again. Stop dwelling on it. So let's go out there and just beat the shit out of them, because that's what we need to do. I'm getting worked up now. We got to. So let's get some score predictions. Let's get some fight predictions. Who's punching who? How many goals are we scoring? Will, let's do it.
Klopp is punching Sean Dyche. It's what's going to happen. Or the ball boy if he keeps getting flack from the ball boys. 3-0. Let's thrash them. Like, let's go. Let's just do it. Like, get back on track. Salah with 2. You know what? Cheeky Hendo goal for the 3rd.
Zach, what you feeling?
You guys aren't going to like this. I just got to be honest with myself. It's going to be another 0-0 draw, and I'm going to punch my wall.
Now, that's a punch that I'd like to see. Patreon subscribers that we don't have, if you donate an extra $5, you can see Zach live punch his wall if something goes wrong. So, yeah, I'm going to be optimistic. I'm saying 12-0. I'm saying Alisson 4 goals because of the wind. The wind will play in our favor. Virgil 4 headers. Matip 4 solo coast-to-coast George Weah goals. I don't think Hendo will score. I don't think Hendo will play. I think Hendo stayed on the pitch against Everton because he threw a fit against United. I think that definitely played a part in it. So I don't know. I had to get it off my chest. I'm worked up. This is pissing me off. Let's win the damn title. Goodbye, everyone.